Hi, I'm Morag Higgins, and I'm here today just to let you get a little bit of an insight into one of my sci-fi books, the first in the series, called The Eye of the Unicorn. And what I thought I would do was perhaps read you a little extract. This is just the start of the book and give you a taste of what's about to happen. Okay, here we go. Dawn. Time was counted in heartbeats as the adversaries faced each other, the dwellers of darkness and the lovers of light. No mercy would be shown, and the bloody death would greet the new day. The cool stare of the San wavered as he looked deep into the red orbs of the cuck. Fearful of the terrible heat of the twin suns, yet unwilling to provoke an attack, the San motioned to his group to edge around their adversary. Sensing the strategy, the monstrous form lazily swung its massive bulk across the intended path and waited. It was one of the few living creatures on the burnt-out planet that was capable of withstanding the terrible heat of the sister stars. It could endure the discomfort of direct sunlight if it provided the additional entertainment of watching the sensitive San fry. Realising that a direct attack was inevitable, the San gathered his strength and lunged at the towering form. On his cue, the others of his group sprang into action. Several razor-sharp axes met their mark, slashing a ragged line across the great neck and down the cuck's side. Black liquid oozed from the wound, dribbling across the thick scales that armoured the cuck's hide. Taken off guard, the cuck squealed its protest, a surprisingly high-pitched sound from a creature so large. It lashed out at its main attacker, the hooked claw swinging through the air to be parried by the axe's head. With a neat sidestep, the leading San completed his stroke by burying the axe deep into the soft pad of the foot. Furious, the cuck shook its leg, desperately trying to free itself from the weapon. In doing so, it snatched the axe from the grip of the San, throwing him a considerable distance across the rough ground. The others backed off and regrouped. The lead San gasped as his sensitive night skin was sandpapered off his back by the rocky surface, allowing blood to seep and sting down his spine. Climbing quickly to his feet, he motioned to the others to draw the cuck towards the rocky outcrop of the mountain range. By now, the day was beginning to brighten with a searing light. Protective inner lids closed across the San's eyes, eliminating much of the glare, but they could feel their skin tingling with the heat. The cuck, meanwhile, had finally managed to free its foot from the axe and was limping towards them, hissing its rage, intent on finishing off its enemies. The group of San turned as one and ran. Squealing shrilly, the cuck followed, its speed considerably impaired by the injuries it had already sustained. The San were racing not only the cuck, but also the life-threatening heat of day. Without the protection of the shaded mountains, they would die, burned in the fierce sister suns. The cool of the mountain outcrops seemed frustratingly near, teasing them with the promise of safety. The stifling heat of day was already beginning to thicken the atmosphere, snatching the very breath from their lips. Looking up, the lead San could see that they were only a short distance from their mountain haven. Being careful not to let the cuck become disinterested with them, he slowed the pace slightly. Finally, the cool shade of the first of the strewn rocks gave a welcome reward for their efforts. They did not rest, for the cuck was relentlessly following, furious as it saw its foes disappearing into the rocks. The change in temperature of the shade had revitalised the San, and they split up, nimbly clambering over the rocky surface, instinctively keeping out of the harsh light. The cuck began to slow, uncertain if it should follow. The San were smaller and sure-footed in this mountain terrain, and a truce had been called. The vast mountain range that circled the northern half of the planet belonged to the San. The flat plains that stretched to the equator was the cuck's. No creature, not even the cuck, could survive the terrible heat that lay south of the equator. If a member of either race found the other within their borders, then and only then would an attack be provoked. It wasn't just war, it was survival. Food was scarce, the planet was dying, and only one race could survive. This cuck had been content to let the group of San die in the heat of day and then feast on the remains. However, the San had struck the first blow, injuring not only its hide, but also this particular cuck's pride, and it intended to make the enemy pay dearly for that indignity. The cuck stopped and sniffed the air. The San had disappeared. It swivelled its head and searched for a scent, fear gripping its heart. It had not realised it had followed the San so far up the mountainside, and now it had managed to get itself jammed into a narrow gorge. It began to run backwards, panic overtaking what little sense it had. The great body quivered as it reversed over a small circle of stones, not noticing the opening between them. As the cuck's sensitive and unprotected belly skimmed across the hole, a San struck from his hiding place, thrusting a sword deep into the creature. Screaming in agony, the cuck ran back even faster and succeeded in ripping its own belly open. Staggering, it backed a few more feet before ramming its hindquarters into the canyon wall. Another San leapt onto its head, thrusting a dagger deep into one crimson eye. Hissing and scrabbling with its claws against the dirt, it writhed in spasmodic bursts. Finally, it collapsed, the blunt-nosed, shovel-shaped head thumping into the ground, blood trickling from its nostrils and gurgling through its teeth. As the massive flanks heaved and sighed, its dying eyes saw the hated San standing together, their leader watching from the hole in the ground. It tried to squeal its fury, but only succeeded in choking on its own blood. It shuddered and lay still. Out on the plain, each sibling from the cuck's nest stopped in their tracks. Each one knew that their nestmate lived no more. Each one knew that the killers were the San. They raised their heads and hissed in fury. The truce had been broken. Well, if that had you on the edge of the seats and you're keen to know more, then you'll be pleased to hear that Eye of the Unicorn is available on all major online retailers. So get out there, get yourself a copy and get reading. And if you've enjoyed this and enjoyed this little extract reading, then I'm sure that we'll be able to do more, and I'd be delighted to share this with you. So if you're happy and you enjoyed this and you want to see more, get liking the page, get sending messages, tell me you want to hear more about some of the other books, and we'll do this again. You take care and have a really good day.